Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm a co-founder of the Free Buryatia Foundation, Russia's first ethnic anti-war organization founded in the wake of the February 24 Russian invasion of Ukraine. First of all, I would like to thank the US Helsinki Commission for a wonderful opportunity to participate in this event. I'm an ethnic Buryat. Buryats are Mongolic indigenous people in eastern Siberia. And I am also part Polish. Imperial policies of the Russian Empire and later the Soviet Union are reflected in my family history. After the second partition of Poland, my Polish ancestors fought against Russian Empire in Kościuszko Rebellion and were captured and exiled to Siberia. My Polish ancestry has always been very important to me, and it has always been my dream to visit Poland, though I never expected it to happen under such sad and tragic circumstances as we face today. If you look at the map, you will discover that the Buryat part of my family is not from Buryatia. It's because of Stalin's 1937 partition of Buryat Mongolia, when the greater Buryat Mongolia was divided into 5 parts. So families of my great-grandparents ended up outside the new borders of Buryatia, outside of their homeland. Professor Marjorie Mandelstam-Balzer, an anthropologist at the Georgetown University, described this event as Stalin's gerrymandering of Buryatia, which was aimed to dilute the Buryat nation both demographically and politically. Today, Buryats are a minority everywhere they live, and they don't speak their native language, which is officially considered endangered. During the Stalin's Great Purge, a lot of ethnic Buryats were killed or sent to Gulag camps, including my great-grandfather. In the 1990s, we could openly discuss this part of our history. However, the true history of Russian conquest of Siberia, including Buryatia, was never discussed, with only the peaceful and voluntary unification narrative being maintained, which Dr. Botakovska-Symbekova aptly described as the imperial innocence of Russia narrative at the previous decolonization of Russia event. Thus, the imperial mindset behind Russia's policies and expansionism has never changed, and moreover, has never been properly acknowledged. I strongly believe that this mindset in both Russian leadership and Russian society has led to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And unless it is changed, Russia, unfortunately, will continue to be a threat to the world. Since March, I have been collecting the data on Russian side casualties of the invasion of Ukraine and analyzing their ethnic composition. I found out that you are 8.7 times more likely to die in this war if you are an ethnic Buryat compared to an ethnic Russian. If you are an ethnic Tuvan, 10.7 times more likely. If you are an ethnic Kazakh living in Russia, 7.5 times more likely than Russian. If you are an ethnic Chechen, you are 2.8 times more likely to die in this war. This is a result of systemic discrimination, economic inequality, and also the deployment policies and military strategy of Russian military leadership, where certain military units are considered more expendable than others. The Kremlin not only imposes disproportional burden of its illegal war on ethnic minorities with its deployment policies, the Kremlin also instigates hatred and hostility toward minorities by peddling the false narrative that it is primarily ethnic troops who are perpetrating war crimes. Unfortunately, a number of prominent Russian public figures are still spreading the narrative of Asian minorities being responsible for all war crimes committed by Russian forces in Ukraine, and moreover, of them constituting the majority of Russian invasion army, which is clearly not the case. On September 21st, Putin announced the so-called partial mobilization in Russia. According to the data we have collected, the proportion of those drafted to the general population is almost 4 times greater in Buryatia than in Russia in general. There is also evidence that more people are drafted from places with ethnic Buryat population compared to those with non-Buryat population. In Buryatia, this mobilization is total, it's not partial. Men and women, regardless of their age, disabilities, and number of children, are being drafted. Some of them are literally taken out of their beds at 4 o'clock in the morning and taken away. The authorities even tried to draft dead people who died during the COVID pandemic. People describe these events as Buryat apocalypse, Judgment Day, and ethnic cleansing. People are fleeing to Mongolia. There are long lines of cars at the Mongolian border. We are immensely grateful to Mongolia for letting all those people in. Thanks to this generous help under such desperate circumstances, Buryats rediscover their long-suppressed identity as a Mongolic nation. I believe that both the military aggression and terror against Ukrainians and also using Russia's minorities as cannon fodder in this unjust war stem from the same imperial colonialist mindset, which isn't properly discussed or even acknowledged, not just in Russia, but quite often outside Russia as well. And unless it changed, Russia may unfortunately continue to be a threat to Europe and to the world in general, even after a possible regime change. That's why the decolonization perspective is so important. The majority, more than 2/3 of Buryatia's population, are ethnic Russians, born in Buryatia, who are, along with ethnic Buryats, also drafted to this war and are dying in this unjust war in disproportionately high numbers just because they are born in Buryatia. I would like to stress that the views expressed here are by no means anti-ethnic Russians or pro-secession. We are anti-war, anti-imperialism. We are against Russia's viciously imperial aggression in Ukraine, and we are for better and safer future for all of us. These values make it a moral obligation and a question of intellectual honesty to view the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the fate of non-Russian minorities and the future of Russia from a decolonization perspective. Thank you for your attention.